identifying the stakeholders in the organization as well, and then exploring exploitation of the management within the organization as well. But sustainable project management means that we need to open up our minds and then have a global mindset. So we are thinking about the local society that we are in and the global society that we are in as well. We're thinking about our generation and then the next generation. So that is the mindset that we need to have. I'll look at the differences between sustainable development and then project management. Project management is short-term oriented. Sustainable development is long-term, sometimes short-term oriented as well. And then project management considers the interests of sponsors and stakeholders. So if I'm managing a project, who is the sponsor? And then who are the stakeholders? How do I satisfy the interests of the stakeholders whilst I'm managing the project? How do I make sure that I'm actually producing what the stakeholders want? But sustainable development is thinking now widely, a wider scope, a wider time horizon. What will happen after this project? What am I leaving behind? What do I need to put in place so that the services or the products of this project will continue to be of benefit to the society and then in the long run? And also, project management is deliverables oriented. What are the deliverables? What are the quality of the deliverables? I need to make sure that these deliverables are delivered. But sustainable project management, you are thinking about the whole life cycle, whatever you are delivering. And then in terms of project management, we all know the triple constraints: scope, time, and budget. But sustainable development is the 3 P's: people, planet, and profit. You remember our leadership talked about looking at the people, if we are to actually lead and bring a transformation, we have to have the culture of the people in mind and how we can transform the culture of the people. And then project management is more reduced complexity, and then this one is increased complexity. So I'll drill down into the project that we tried or we did manage, I'll say, with sustainability in mind in ECG. It's called the Technical Assessment of Assets. And I want to find out how many of us can mention some of the assets that ECG has. The pole. Meters, okay. The service lines, okay. And the conductors, good. I think you've all done well, so you have to clap for yourselves. So, the background of this project, we all know about the private sector participation. You all heard it. Yes. And government of Ghana entered into an agreement with the US government and decided that they would like to, or there was a study that showed that we need to improve our energy sector. So the grant was agreed on so that the energy sector would be improved. But one of the conditions that was required was for ECG to list its assets and value its assets, so that in the transaction the company was going to be given out on a private sector, and government of Ghana needed to monitor the activities of the private sector to make sure that whatever is actually adding assets and actually building up on the assets of the company. And ECG, what we normally used to do is to have asset revaluation every 5 years. So at that time, we looked into our books. We realized that the last time we did it was about 4 years ago. So we said, or about 3 years ago, so we said, okay, we'll look and see. We looked into the operations directory, those who actually maintain our assets. We looked into those who are into project management, their documents. And we also looked into the finances, the financial assets as well. But we realized that there were differences in these assets. So what management decided that then, because this is a critical transaction, it means that we need to actually pick our assets from scratch. You can imagine going to pick our assets from scratch. We had over 3.4 million customers. We had over 50,000 kilometers of service lines. And that was something else. So the objective of the project was basically to create a network asset, the asset database that could be used to fulfill multiple needs. So in doing that, we had a future in mind, not only counting the assets at the beginning, for the now, we had a future in mind as well. So it was agreed that, look, looking at the timing, we have just about 2 years to go. We can't pick all our assets. We will look at 100% of the high voltage transmission lines. That's our primary substations, our medium voltage lines, and then 30% of our low voltage lines as well. And also there were other assets like the IT assets, the materials that were in stock. All those other assets needed to be picked as well. So the project was actually put together and managed by the help of a consultant called A.T. Kenny and another consultant which helped in developing an application, an electronic application, actually an application on our mobile phones which were used to pick the assets. So I'll just go straight into, okay, so this diagram is actually showing that we have power producers that produce power. It's a mix of hydro, we have thermal, we also have solar, some aspects of solar, we have wind, and that is produced by our power producers. VRE also produces power as well, and then Gridco transmits the power, but ECD comes in the southern sector of the country. We don't deal with distribution at the northern sector, we deal with distribution at the southern sector. So we reach Ashanti region, and that's the northern and upper is by Northern Electricity Department. So we agreed that, okay, in terms of scope for this project, 100% of all our medium voltage assets will pick, and then 30% of our low voltage assets in terms of service lines, and then the meters we pick, and we use statistical means to come up with 100%. So because we were using modern tools and equipment, there was the need. You agree with me that when we are implementing today, our keynote speaker mentioned that IT projects, we have to have a certain mindset, and it's not easy implementing IT-related projects in organizations. So the organization that was put up started at the very top. So our MD was the chair of our steering committee, and then the steering committee was reported to by a program management committee. So the steering committee was made up of the MD and then directors of the organization. Then we had the program management committee in the middle, and me being the project manager, we reported to the program management committee that was made up of the general managers who served directly under the directors. Then for day-to-day program management, I was there with the consultants who were working with us, and then the project team as well. We had different project teams, QA, QC, IT, we had regional teams, we had field teams, those who went out to collect the assets. We had all of them. This project was completed in 2.5 years. We started putting together the concept in 2016. By December 2018, we were done. By December 2016, so that's about 2.5 years, I'll say. The methodology and implementation, we used, I would say that we used innovative methodologies. It's not the normal. We could have gone out, sent data men to go out, just go and count the assets and come low. We actually developed a data model, and because we had our strategic objectives also in mind, knowing that we are going to implement a GIS project, we developed the data model in such a way that it's going to fit into any GIS model that we wanted to implement. So data collection was conducted using a data model with standardized condition assessment. So people went out into the field, they had tablets, they picked the assets, they took pictures of the assets, and then once they saved it, it was loaded onto a server. So we had, in terms of managing the project, we also used Microsoft Excel Excel. So we had certain Power Pivot Excels. We had certain reports we generated, and we were able to manage the project. So this was the deliverables of the project. We engaged 290 staff, field staff. We call them contract workers. And then we also worked with 120 national service staff. And ECD staff were 176. And in terms of the deliverables, we had 134 primary substations. Our primary substations are where ECD meets the power producers and picks the power for distribution. So we had 134 scattered across our operational areas. We also had, for medium voltage, we picked approximately 27,000 lengths of kilometers length of lines, and distribution transformers were 24,000. And then we also picked up over 50,000 kilometers of service lines and then meters. So our customer meters were about 3.4 million. And this is the project team that did the project. I have a small demo. I'll try and see if I can show it. But in terms of, this is how the application appears on the Android device. And you see that a map is showing the map of Ghana. And then you see that because we are in the southern sector, we pick as this Greater Accra region. Zooming inside, these are meters that have been picked. This is how it shows on the map. You can actually drill down into a meter and then have all the attributes of the meter. So which type of meter, what is the make, is it a residential meter, is it and we also pick pictures of the meter. So if you look on the screen, you see that we are seeing, right now we see transmission lines picked with a picture as well. And you also see transformers. These are pole-mounted transformers also showing on the screen. So it's basically, it was designed with a mindset of how do we make sure that we leave a product that is usable for the next generation, but at the same time it is meeting the present generation's need. So that served the needs of the private sector participation, and currently the data is being used in the geographic information system project that is currently being built, and also it's used for operations and maintenance and then network investment plan. I have a few pictures here. This is the Eastern Region team. You know Donkokro. Who are those who come from Eastern Region? Donkokro. Okay, so people from Donkokro had to, the Eastern Region has to go pick access from Donkokro, and you realize that they have to take a boat because you have to cross the river before you get to Donkokro. So this is the team, a picture showing the team. Actually, there were certain challenges. You see a scorpion there in the picture, some of the challenges they faced. There were also vegetation challenges. In fact, some of our assets were embedded in vegetation. When they were giving cutlasses, they have to weed or cut the vegetation before they have access to the assets and pick the assets and take the pictures. This is the Volta regional team as well. They had to cross a river, look at a snake that they met. That's a python that is in the picture there. Some of the team members.
She was saying that environmental sustainability, if you are killing the animals.
So we shouldn't have killed the python. Hey, the python was a danger. Even there were times that I remember there was an occasion, a dog from one of the customers jumped onto the lady who was picking the assets and even bit her. So these are some of the hazards that we were exposed to. But we had health insurance, or we had some form of insurance for the staff that took care of them. So in terms of the reporting of the assets, currently we have a reporting platform that is available and accessible across all ECG operational areas. For you, you want to call ECG if you have a problem. ECG should know where you stay so that they can quickly address your problem for you. So in terms of the primary substations, I'll say that these are the total number. As at the time the project ended, this shows sustainability. As at the time the project ended, we had picked 134 primary substations. Currently in the system is 143. That shows that the system is in use, currently in use. Then, for distribution substations, you see that it's scattered across our operational area. So on the map, you see all of this, about 24,000 of them, currently 22,000 distribution substations. Distribution substations are the transformers that feed you. So I'm sure you see some transformers close to your house. That's the transformer that feeds you. Once you call us and we see that the customers in that entire area are affected, they will know that it's this current or this distribution transformer. They will quickly work on it for you. So these are, in terms of maps, these are some of okay, so 33 kV lines and equipment too. You see our 33 kV lines and equipment, a total of 199245 for the high voltage, and then for the medium voltage is 9,429 currently. I wanted to zoom in so that you have access to. So I'll talk about the sustainability dimensions that we could have just done this project and just forgot about it. But we made sure that because of the skilled resources that we had, the natural resources that I talked about, the economical integrity of sustainability, we made sure that there was human resource availability, and we also made sure that the system and equipment, the systems and then the equipment were also available. So we signed a maintenance contract. We also had in place certain resources that could help. We also put policies in place. Before approval is given for a project to be completed, the assets have to be captured in the system. So those are the policy and procedural changes that we put in place. We also have quarterly reporting that goes on as well. So currently the system is being used by engineering, for engineering, planning, engineering, designing, network projects, customer services, outages. The outage task force also uses the system. Let me talk about lessons learned and then we jump to the conclusion. In managing such projects, IT-enabled projects, it's very important that there is the need for us to ensure that IT availability is stable. So we did not go out into the field to make sure that we connect to the server. We worked offline. We had a model that worked offline. So the people go pick up the assets. Once they get to where they have stable internet, they sync and the assets get onto the server. So that we didn't have any problems. We all know that where we are coming from, the internet connection can be a problem when it comes to rural areas. So that was one of the lessons that we learned. And also, so getting the opportunity to at least work offline for some of these technical or ICT-enabled services will help us. Also, there was effective resource management. I mentioned that there were over 600 people on the project, and just imagine managing all these people and communicating constantly with them. There was a time we had to go to the security areas to pick the assets. We had to write letters to the security people, explain to them, explain to our customers what we were doing, and then we put into ECG processes the update procedure, so that ECG doesn't have to go through this process again, going to take assets from the field. So in conclusion, I'll say that project managers must have a mindset that is geared towards sustainability. we operate in a world that has a broader sustainability objectives. So if we close our minds to scope just our deliverables, we are not going to really help our future generations. Also, because our projects are instruments of change, they play an important role in the realization of the sustainable development goals. We should increase our time horizon and stakeholder scope. We should also have certain risk evaluation measures just to make sure that we have addressed all risks associated with projects. And we should our focus should be long term. Then we all know the president of International Project Management Association, President Reinhard. I just have a quote from him. He says, listening to daily news makes me feel that we really need to change something. The 17 SDGs of the UN lead the way, and an urgent call for all people engaged in the field of project management. We are the change. We project managers, we are the change. We can make a difference in the way we manage projects. Thank you very much.
Wow, let's do it better. Let's do it better. Let's do it better. Thank you so much. We'll go straight to the Q&A. If you have a question or a contribution, please can you please come to me? Then there has been a caveat. Say all ECG questions, you'll be given a number to call.
That's a wonderful presentation. Enyonam, thank you very much. As lead for your PM model handles technical assets, I would like to know how effective is your asset management mechanism, and how frequent or periodic do you upgrade some of your assets? I'm talking in respect of a technical challenge that we have in my area. I live in the place in the outskirts of Sogakope called Nigeria. I'm lost. And our lights are always up, and most of the time, whenever you call your customer service center, they blame it on the transformer. They say that the transformer is overloaded. Okay, I moved to the place about 7 years ago, and we are still using the same transformer. So my question is, how frequent do you upgrade some of your assets to cater for some of these challenges? Thank you.
Thank you very much. I think we'll take 3 questions on radar.
Engineer, can we take one by one of you?
No, we'll take 3 at a time.
Thank you very much, and thank you for that sharp presentation. I just want to clarify. Maybe I will not get you clearly, but I wanted to look at or find out about some of the sustainability principles that you actually employ. It appears I didn't get that in your presentation. Thank you.
Hi, thank you for the presentation. So I believe ECG does a lot of projects, depending on what you want to achieve. And so I wanted to find out if I know you work with ECG. So are you taking off the functional duties and put on this project to work on, or how are you able to manage a project as big as this, and then also fulfill your functional duties as a manager? Thank you.
I have some ECG people here. He said he's at Pokwasi. Yeah. Okay. So we have some ECG projects people here. I want them to talk about are we doing any projects to improve around that place?
As it stands, for instance, a place like Kwasi or Amasaman, those areas, it's a new and it's a open area. We can put a transformer today, in about a month or 2, it is loaded. And because customers go there, they build their house without recourse to ECG knowing from the beginning. So we are not able to plan ahead of time. So it takes a while. It's after you finish building, you say, I need a power supply. then we put the power supply, the load goes up to a certain level, then now it has to be in our budget to come and upgrade. Thank you.
And then the next question, you asked if how long we update our assets. That's he explained. And then we also do regular, in fact, it's part of our processes. We are always monitoring the loadings on the transformer. So when the transformer is overloaded, we know, and we quickly prepare the project to address the issue. So some of the issues that we have been having is because customers have come and we may not have been aware. And so that is why some of these automated processes are going to help. Because if I show the distribution transformers, if this is sitting, this is like the base for digital transformation in ECG. If this is on top of it is the operations and management system, we'll be able to know immediately what is wrong with all the transformers and the loadings on all the transformers. By the click of a button, quickly we can address some of these things. So this is what this project has tried to achieve. And in terms of the sustainability dimensions, I mentioned that making the first one was having the environmental sustainability. So I mentioned and I explained that is making sure that human resources are balanced and are available all the time as natural resources. And natural resources include human resources. So in terms of this project management, by the time we finished this project, we had skilled staff as compared to the ECG staff that they had their way of doing their things. We had skilled staff, over 400 of them. We couldn't let all of them go like that. So we made them and distributed them across the regions so that they will be readily available to help ECG transform its processes to be able to update its assets regularly. This is one of the sustainability dimensions. Another one is putting into place policies and procedural changes so that we didn't have to, we were not doing things the way we were doing things. So we put policies in place to ensure that any new assets that are captured are quickly captured in the system. So before a project, payments for approval for new network extension is done, the asset has to be issued. You have to get a printout from the system. That shows that you have put the assets in the system. Then in terms of system and equipment availability, the application is readily available. Right now, as we sit here, we can even log on to the application and show you can pick assets and show you that is available for our present generation and also for the future generation as well.
Yes, please, Doc, there was a last question. Because of our time, please we'll make it snappy. The next session is about to begin. The last question was about how you were able to put your functional role and the project.
And that actually I was put full time on this project. So I just let off my functional roles to my second in command, and I did this project. Currently, I'm still on the project, but I do a few functional roles as well.
Right, thank you very much. We will take 2 short questions, then we'll be back.
Yeah, Enyonam, thank you for presentation. From the previous coaching and the answer that McDonald's gave in the back, it says that when they put a transformer there, before you realize it's what? And then, it's overhead. Now, I just want to know, since all of us, we are project managers, before you're going to set a transformer in the area, have you done any feasibility study to see that whether maybe 20 years to come, 10 years to come, this will be around this area? So they need this type of capacity to settle on, so that you can put it there before the people will start coming in. You do such things in your studies. Thank you.
Yes, we do, but you know that because of lack of planning in this our part of our country or our world, we do feasibility study, but we can only do it based on the plans that we have in place. Where there's no plan, then it becomes difficult.
Yeah. I have a quick question. Just wanted to find out, and Excellent work, madam. Very excellent work. We want to find out, how do you manage, now that you say you have assets, and in fact, you have done the asset management, how do you manage your overload on your assets? So for example, today, you recognize that one asset is overloaded. How do you manage that change process? I'm asking that also in the light of the fact that you have a lot of connections, maybe coming from your assets, which may not be in your record as well. So how do you manage that? And then I also wanted to find out that how do you manage third parties who are also on your assets? And because they may not necessarily also be following your process. I know some of the telcos and co are stringing on yours. So how are you managing that as well? Thank you very much. I think I shared a quick question.
I wanted to know who the users of or the customers for the particular project was, and at what point they were introduced to the project. Was it at the beginning, in the middle, or after?
So in terms of external customers, I'll answer you. In terms of external customers, we introduced them once we wanted to get into the area to pick assets. Then we got letters and talked and sent to them, and also made announcements to them as well. The users of the system right now are ECG staff, operations staff, engineering staff, all those who do designs, all those who do operations and maintenance in our network. And to come to your question, you were asking how we currently manage the assets. The overloads on the assets. I explained that. I think one of the people explained that this system is the base. On top of it, we are actually implementing an operations and management system that looks, but we also do reading of our manual reading of our loads, the loads of our assets. But you know that manual reading, it takes some time. So we are trying to improve it. That is why we did this one as the base for digital transformation. And we are actually having in place a set of projects that we intend to transform the organization's processes.
And ask about the third party. How you're managing the third party as well.
The third parties, we have contracts with those who are using our lines for the telecommunication network. So we have certain things that we are actually doing with them.
Thank you very much. Let's give it better for Dr. Engineer